The Franchi SPAS-12 is a combat shotgun manufactured by Italian firearms company Franchi from 1979 to 2000. Only 5% of the estimated SPAS-12 shotguns manufactured were imported into the United States. The SPAS-12 is a dual-mode shotgun, adjustable for semi-automatic or pump-action operation. The SPAS-12 was sold to military and police users worldwide, on the civilian market, and has been featured in many movies, TV shows and video games. The appearance and intended purpose of the SPAS-12 initially led to its military designation as a combat shotgun. The SPAS-12 was designed from the ground up as a rugged military shotgun and it was named the. In 1990 Franchi renamed the shotgun to the. This allowed continued sales to the U.S. as a limited magazine capacity, fixed stock model until 1994. Following the United States federal assault weapons ban, imports of SPAS-12 shotguns were stopped into the United States. In September 2004 the ban had expired, but Franchi had ended production in 2000 of the SPAS-12 to focus on the manufacturing of the SPAS-15 model. The SPAS-12's retail price in its final year of 2000 was $1,500 USD, averaged for final sales outside the U.S. to non-restricted countries. Design: the SPAS-12 was designed to function primarily as a semi-automatic firearm, with the pump-action mode used to reliably fire low-pressure ammunition such as tear gas rounds or less lethal bean bags. The firing mode is switched by pressing a button under the foregrip and sliding the foregrip slightly forwards or backwards until it clicks into position. However, the pump-action mode was slow and awkward compared to traditional pump-action guns because of the complex changeover mechanism and friction between the foregrip and the handguard. The SPAS-12 has a magazine cutoff feature, which prevents loading a new round from the internal magazine when the gun is cycled. This allows the operator to load a specialized round into the chamber without firing the entire magazine first. A unique feature of the SPAS-12 was the hook-on folding stock variants. This hook could be rotated in 90-degree increments, so it would fit under the user's forearm when the stock was extended. With the stock supported under the forearm, the gun can be fired with one hand. An example would be allowing the user to fire from a vehicle through the passenger side window while driving. SPAS-12 models feature a lever type or push-button safety. Lever safeties were recalled by Franchi and were replaced through the importer American Arms in the early 1990s. Note: the push-button cross-bolt safety has also been known to fail and release the hammer when depressing the trigger on safe, and it is recommended that the secondary quick employment safety is used on both the newer and older style trigger groups in place of the lever or cross-bolt safeties to prevent accidental discharge. Two different types of push-button safeties. The earliest version would actually release the hammer on safe up to 1/4 inch of travel when the trigger was depressed. This would cause a lockup of the action that would require the user to relock the bolt assembly to the rear to reset the hammer and then reload the chamber. The later version installed a detent and machined hole in the trigger group frame to prevent an action lock. The detent would prevent the hammer from engaging when the trigger was depressed and would prevent an action lock from occurring. A B-square rail mount for optics was available for a short time in the 1990s as an aftermarket accessory. The barrel of the SPAS-12 was externally threaded to accept a variety of attachments. The barrel is cylinder bored and spreads a normal shot charge to about 900 mm at 40 meters range, reducing the need for precise aiming. The automatic action will fire about 4 shots per second, and at this rate of fire, with standard buckshot loadings, it is possible to put 48 pellets per second into a 1 meter square target at 40 meters range. At this range the pellets have about 50% more striking energy than a .32 pistol bullet. Many different choke types, both original and aftermarket, and a NATO-specific grenade launcher used for gas grenades capable of a range of 150 meters. A rear diverter that spreads shot vertically or horizontally was originally included with earlier model SPAS-12s. Variants. The first version of the SPAS-12 manufactured with a wooden detachable stock with a standard grip. Models were later available with a folding metal stock with hook. A rare aftermarket choke skeleton stock with an AR-15 style grip was available for a short time in the early 1990s. After the U.S. imposed import restrictions on the SPAS-12 in 1989, a version was released in 1990 with a synthetic hollow fixed stock and a 5 or 6 shell capacity to comply with federal regulations for sporting purposes. 4 different factory barrels manufactured for the SPAS-12 and 12L models. 1. 18-inch shorty made for law enforcement military originally. 2. July 8, 19 found scattered on a very few of the 1983 AL-proofed SPAS-12 shotguns. These were made for law enforcement military originally. 3. January 2, 21 is a one-piece barrel converted to a 24 UK legal barrel. This barrel adds with a 2.5-inch choke tube brazed or silver soldered in place. 4. The standard January 2, 21 with sight blade muzzle ended on barrel for the special purpose or the pushed back sight blade with brazed extension for the sporting purpose model. The SPAS-12 came equipped with a non-adjustable circular aperture rear sight and a large, non-adjustable blade foresight integrated into the barrel. Franchi released 4 other shotguns based on the SPAS-12 platform, the LAW-12, SAS-12, PA-7 and PA-8. The LAW-12 was semi-automatic only, and the SAS-12 was pump-action only. These 4 sister shotguns accepted all SPAS-12 accessories and could share many other components, notably trigger groups and stocks. The SAS was unusual in that it could accept 3 inches shells but did not have a bolt handle cut in its bolt body, while the SPAS and LAW could only accept 23 or 4 shells. The PA-7 and PA-8 had many similar attributes and were mainly used by Italy and Spain. It is important to note, the magazine extension tubes of the LAW-12 and SAS-12 were never designed to be interchangeable with the SPAS-12 as this would cause issues with the selector switch moving from auto to pump action on the SPAS-12 models. The Franchi LAW-12 model was also restricted by importation and banned in 1994 with the AWB. The model was known to have imported with all stock styles used on the Franchi SPAS-12. Total numbers imported estimated to around 8,700 shotguns. The LAW-12 retail price in its final year of 2000 was $400 averaged for final sales outside the U.S. to non-restricted countries. The LAW-12 models were more common with police sales as an alternative to the more expensive SPAS-12 for departments throughout the U.S. The LAW-12 was discontinued by Franchi shortly before the SPAS-12 discontinued in 2000. The LAW-12 released shortly after the SPAS-12 model. The SPAS-12 collector's grade shotguns vary heavy in price and are sought for certain features. 1. The front sight blade is muzzle-ended. 2. The longer extension allowing 8 shells in the tubular magazine. 3. The date code on the receiver is proof 1989 or prior with FIE Corporation as importer. 4. The barrel length is 21.5 or less and the less barrel length by factory is more sought after. 5. Attached stock is the wooden detachable with grip and/or the metal folding stock with hook. The Franchi SPAS-15 is the successor to the SPAS-12 shotgun. It is also a semi-automatic pump shotgun, but uses a 6-shell box magazine instead of the SPAS-12's tube magazine. About 180 SPAS-15 models were imported into the U.S. until 1994. U.S. importers, the United States allowed 2 different licensed importers for the Franchi SPAS-12 shotguns. From 1982 to 1989 importation of the first version known as the SPAS-12 imported into the U.S. from Italy with FIE Corporation. In 1989 FIE suffered from major losses of sales due to the Importation Ban Restriction Act of an executive order by the President under National Security Ruling 18 U.S.C. 925-3, on sporting restrictions. The executive order was originated from the 1968 Gun Control Act and is based on the Nazi weapons law of 1938 sporting purpose restrictions. In 1990 American Arms Incorporated purchased all remaining inventories of parts and SPAS-12 shotguns and began the re-importation of the Franchi SPAS-12 as the under newly approved restrictions. From 1990 to 1994, American Arms incorporated two changes with the fixed stock and magazine tube extension restrictions, thus allowing importation to continue. ATF allowed importation of a SPAS-12 variant shotgun because its size, weight, bulk and modified configuration were such that it was particularly suitable for traditional shooting sports. The law enforcement SPAS-12L models showed little sales to law enforcement departments as it was not considered an affordable shotgun for most law enforcement agencies to maintain. The SPAS-12 was tested by the U.S. Coast Guard and showed promising results but again was not considered cost-effective for a contract over other available suppliers. The assault weapons ban of September 1994 caused American Arms to stop the importation of the SPAS-12 with major losses of sales due to the legal restrictions invoked by the U.S. assault weapons ban. It is important to know that both importers requested numerous additional orders for the Franchi SPAS-12 shotguns that with both companies were never completely filled due to imposed laws by U.S. restriction throughout both importers' time periods. Ultimately, this was the reason for such few numbers of importation into the United States. U.S. legal, a SPAS-12 shotgun is not an NFA registry item if it was imported grandfathered into the United States between 1982 to 1994 bearing the import markings of FIE or American Arms. If a SPAS-12 is manufactured after 1994 in the U.S., it requires a licensed destructive device manufacturer, registration into the NFA and a $200 tax stamp for individual ownership of a destructive device. From 1982 to 2000, a SPAS-12L and SPAS-12L model were manufactured for law enforcement worldwide and imported into the U.S. until the 1994 assault weapons ban. The SPAS-12L and 12L models included the prior to 1990 folding stock and high-capacity magazine tube extension. The SPAS-12L and SPAS-12L model was sold on the U.S. civilian market as existing import shotguns. The production year of an SPAS-12 may be identified by a two-digit letter code forward of the loading port. A SPAS-12, SPAS-12L and SPAS-12L shotgun factory stamped by a year after 1994 is considered an illegal import violating federal importation laws with penalties for possession in the U.S. The SPAS-12 would not include importation markings on the side of the receiver prior to 1982 and after 1994 by the U.S. importers Firearms Import and Export or American Arms. SPAS-12 and LAW-12 shotguns are listed illegal for possession in states that hold a military assault weapon style law that identifies the shotguns by name on each state's individual ban. The states may have had a registration timeline that would allow it to be grandfathered prior to each state's individual ban. Date of writing May 19, 2014. U.S. states and territories listed that ban the Franchi SPAS-12 and LAW-12 currently from future individual civilian possession. CAR, CT, District of Columbia, Maryland, MA, NJ, NY. Users, Australia, used by police forces. Austria, used by EKO Cobra. A Bangladesh, Special Security Force. A Bahrain, used by the Bahrain Special Forces. A Croatia, used by Croatian Army. A India, Special Forces. A Iraq, ISOF. An Italy, used by military and police. A Indonesia, Komando Pasukan Katak Tactical Group and Komando Pasukan Khusus Special Forces Group. An Ireland, used by the Army Ranger Wing. A Malaysia, Malaysian Special Operations Force. A Nepal, Nepal Mobile Police. A Norway, used by military. A Pakistan, used by police and military. A Philippines, used by police. A Turkey, Turkish Gendarmerie. A United States, used by police SWAT teams. See also, Benelli M3, List of shotguns, Combat shotgun. References. External links, Modern Weaponzer Euro SPAS-12, Use and Maintenance Manual, the SPAS-12 Project.